So I was talking to Senator Girod, who is like kind of explaining a little bit about how this duo came together. As I understand it, you guys are working on this in unison. Can you talk to me a little bit about when you first heard about this issue and how you got involved?
Yeah, I read the article in the Oregonian like a lot of other people, and my jaw hit the floor. I could not believe that the waterfalls were just going to be on the market on a public auction, especially with no precondition for requiring public access be maintained. So that day, I started talking to my staff about it, and I made a couple calls to some land trusts, and trying to figure out what the state of play was. Kept working on it over the weekend, and then planned to give this speech on the House floor on Monday just to raise the profile of this issue. And in that process, had discovered that Senator Girod had similar thoughts and feelings to me. I'm a Democrat in the House. He's a Republican in the Senate, but we are totally aligned on this issue. So it made for a great opportunity for us to work together to protect something beautiful in Oregon.
So, as I understand it, you are currently starting some talks with the Abbey.
Yeah, we're going to meet with the Abbey later today. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I think the Abbey meeting might be next week. There's a couple, I don't know how deep you're in. I know you've done more reporting on this than most of your colleagues, which I sincerely appreciate. But there's a couple plots of lands involved here, one owned by the Abbey, one owned by Weyerhaeuser. It's not clear yet what the right arrangement would be to guarantee the best public access. But we're having meetings with all the landowners to try to figure out what the options are available to us, to try to preserve public access.
Is the entrance right now, as it stands, on the Warehouser portion of the property?
I am not 100% sure of that. I don't know for sure, and I don't want to get it wrong.
Okay. Okay. I might ask Travis. He might know with
I Yeah, Travis would probably know. I've ch chatted with him a couple times, and I think he's super knowledgeable. My understanding is that to get to the entrance, though, it does require traveling through state land.
Gotcha.
But I don't know where the Weyerhaeuser property is and where the Abbey property begins in terms of that. You went all the way down, right?
Yeah, so in the part we parked where the trailhead starts, there's a private property that I think is probably Warehouser, and there's an access blocked off. So I wonder if part of that, like, roadway is potentially Warehouser. I don't know. It's hard to understand.
Were you in a 4x4 truck?
We have a Highlander we took up there.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was in my Subaru Forester four-wheel drive. I thought I was going to be good. And I got past those two big puddles. And then we got to that part where it just is all over the place. And a
Yeah.
car in front of me had gotten stuck because
Oh
they
my
had
goodness.
tried to turn around. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make the trek all the way down today. But I saw from your video that like it looks like it's an adventure to get down to the
It
fall.
is. It's just kind of easy to miss the trail that goes upstream. So we actually did and did it twice. So, got our
Yep.
exercise in for the day. But
Yeah,
um
that's awesome.
yeah, I had seen some people kind of park before that kind of sketchy part of the road, and yeah, I guess depends what you're driving, and the photographer did a great job driving, so
Yeah,
I'm
that's
glad I
awesome.
wasn't the one at the wheel.
That's awesome.
But yeah, talk to me a little bit about how you envision this process working. I know you're still in talks, and you don't want to, screw up the negotiations there, so I know there's limited amount of information you can release, but what can you tell me as of right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. As far as I'm concerned, the most important thing that needs to happen is we need to find a way to make sure that Abiqua Falls are public for the people who live in this state. There's a lot of different ways that that can be accomplished. I think actually, and I should say, the Abbey Foundation deserves our commendation. They have kept this place available to the public for over 100 years, and that is really special. And that is, I think, aligned with the values that Oregonians have. The question is what happens for the next 100 years and 100 years after that. And to me, my preferred answer to that question is this should be a publicly owned space. I think it should be a state park. That is what my desired solution is. That's not the only solution. There are land trusts that could guarantee public access. There are other state agencies who could potentially hold the land. There could be agreements with other private landowners like the Abbey Foundation. So I think there is an openness from the involved parties to figure out what works best. What I am consistent about is we need to guarantee public access, and my preference, my strong preference, is to align Abiqua Falls with all the other great Oregon destinations and make sure it's publicly owned. That's what I would like to guarantee.
It sounds like state parks may be one of the more expensive routes because it would require a much more considerable investment in trail maintenance, renovation, construction even. It's pretty steep there as is, so stair building, all that good stuff. Why is that your preferred route versus, say, ODF that might not require quite as much maintenance and could leave it just a little more wild, essentially?
It's a great question. I mean, your reporting actually, I think, painted a great picture of this for your viewers. It is not an easy place to get to right now, and I think one of the goals for public ownership is to make sure Oregonians from all across this state can access the falls. If the state park takes it over and has provided the resources, you could create a place that has more public accessibility and, frankly, is less dangerous. There's, I think, some real I don't know how to put this. The conditions of the road getting down to the falls, as you experienced, are not in the best condition right now. Those are long-term problems. Those can be figured out later. If the proper place is to put it in a different state agency, I'm totally open to that. But I think a place this beautiful warrants a state park. I think Oregonians would appreciate that.
If it does go to state parks, would there be expected to be a period of time in which it remains closed for those renovations to take place? As I understand it, any improvement money would come in the next session. So there could potentially be a year's time in which state parks own this and is, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead here, but would they be reluctant to open this, continue public access when the trails are not maintained and could be unsafe?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that for sure. That would be up to the state parks. I think one of their, I can imagine that they would be concerned about safety, and making sure that Oregonians are safe if they're trying to access the falls. So I don't know what that would look like from their perspective. So I'm just not sure yet.
In talks with both state parks and ODF, it sounds like you're leaning more towards state parks. Is there a reason? I mean, you said you want this to be a state park. Is that just primarily the reason, or did ODF offer like less of a yes, we want this kind of vibe?
No, I should be clear. I am open to whatever the easiest route for public ownership is. When I think of a state park, I think of some of the most beautiful destinations in this state, the places that I grew up visiting when I was a kid, the places that I think Oregonians value so deeply. And I think Abiqua Falls is in that category. I think most Oregonians who have been there, who have seen the pictures and the videos of this special place, they believe that this should be protected like any other state park. So that's what resonates with me. But again, core goal here is public ownership and public access. So I will pursue whatever route accomplishes that goal.
It sounds like Senator Girod was saying, the easiest way to do it at this point is going to be through a bond through the capital improvement committee. It doesn't seem like that would be a difficult bill to get passed since it would be a line item in a bigger bill. Is that sort of what you're leaning towards at this point?
The great thing about working with Senator Girod is he has tons of experience on the Ways and Means Committee, the state's budget committee. So he has a much deeper understanding of how that process works and the different levers available to us, the different financing options. So I'm certainly following his lead on the financing side.
Do you see this running into any snags in terms of, other lawmakers, the governor?
I have not heard of any opposition. I gave that speech on Monday, and there were two impromptu speeches from Republicans on the House floor saying that they wanted to support the effort and join the work. That is a very encouraging sign. And I will also say, I think that uh, Oregonians will rise up and be very upset if they start to hear about a privatization effort or they hear about this not being successful. I elicited on the House floor the story of our public beaches with Tom McCall back in the 1960s, and we've already got interest and excitement from Oregonians, saying, "Please keep this public." So I think the more that we veer away from that, the more that we're going to hear from some angry citizens of the state who want us to protect Abiqua Falls.
As you're in talks with the Abbey, I mean, how does that process work? Because right now it's currently up for public bids. I don't know if they've received any bids or not, but if they, if you negotiate something that you guys are comfortable with, are they willing to remove that from the public bidding process, or are you just going to be one of the many bids?
That's a good question. And I wouldn't want to speak for them since I have not had that conversation yet. But my understanding is that they have They have said several different times in several different ways that they believe public access to this beautiful place in Oregon is important. And I hope that they would understand that public ownership is the best way to preserve that for forever. So I'm hopeful that they will work with us as legislators, as representatives of the state, to find a solution that works for them and works for the people of Oregon.
How confident are you that this is going to go through?
I believe we can pull this off. I don't know for sure. I know that we've got some unanswered questions in front of us, but when you've got Democrats and Republicans, when you've got folks in rural Oregon and urban Oregon, when you've got folks who really believe in this, all coming together saying we have to take this once in a generation opportunity to protect this place, that makes me believe we can make it happen. We can make big things happen in this state. So I am optimistic, but I know we've got some work in front of us.